So as you know, we run these sessions every 2 weeks through Oxford College, and we kind of cover all things marketing technology, AI, and kind of how AI is impacting both marketing and also our leadership and how we have to manage this within organizations, especially when it comes to regulation and compliance. There's a lot going on within this world, as we all know. And when ChatGPT, first came into our worlds as 3.0, we kind of got used to using it in a certain way. But actually, from that point to now, we're at ChatGPT 5 now, there's been so many changes. And the more people I've spoken to, the less they've actually updated their own way of working with this technology. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to sit within ChatGPT together for the hour. So as I said a couple of moments ago, if you have the free version, the paid for version, get that up in the background of this webinar so you can try out the things we're going to do together today. And also then I can answer any questions or barriers that you come up against. But today, we're going to be talking about ChatGPT in all of its glory, right? And I always say that this technology, it started out as a curiosity. Yeah, we were curious about what this wonderful piece of technology can do. But now it's rewriting job descriptions, it is rethinking creativity, it's reshaping strategy decks, it's doing all of these wonderful things. And it can do it before our coffee has even brewed, right? It's an incredibly wonderful piece of technology. But it's moved on. It's moved on from this clever chatbot that understands us, gives us witty remarks that we first had access to a lot of being the kind of quiet co-pilot. Yeah, it sits within our platforms, within our processes, and within our expectations of AI technology. But hilariously, I heard in a kind of event that I was online for last week, a lot of people are using ChatGPT like Google, yeah, but it has better manners than Google. That's where we're stuck at. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the technology that drives this. We're going to look at how it thinks, what it can do, what it can't do for business marketing and our kind of day-to-day. And I'll go kind of past the hype, yeah, as I always do. I will make sure that realistically we get all of this kind of technology pulled back and understood. So today we're going to look at how we understand how ChatGPT generates answers. We're going to learn the difference between the free and paid versions, and also the range of GPTs, the different models that you have access to. We're going to identify the tasks that ChatGPT does well and what it doesn't do very well. And I'll explain why, of course. And then I'll also give you practical prompts and how you talk to this technology to get the most out of it. I'm also going to show you the differences between kind of the different GPTs. We're going to sit together and make our own GPT within ChatGPT. And also I want to answer any of your questions. Yeah. So as I said, at any point you have a question, a thought or idea, please drop that into the chat. Daniela isn't here today, so I do have Megan. Megan's on the call with me, and she will help me to kind of facilitate this and make sure I answer any questions if I do miss them. So my first question to you, yeah, is how do you currently use ChatGPT? To drop one kind of word in the chat, and I can kind of then gauge on how you're currently using this wonderful piece of technology. Okay, yeah, Megan's messaged me to say that she's on this webinar. Yeah, I've read your message, Megan. I will see how I can help that as well. So how is everybody currently using ChatGPT? Proofread your emails, yeah. To reword phrasing, yeah. That's an amazing way. Summarize text, yeah. Formulate thoughts to send clear emails. Yeah, that's a great way to use it. Make you sound nicer. Yeah, that's also a great way to use this technology as well. check phrasing in paragraphs. Okay, so we're using it as kind of like our virtual assistant. Yeah, realistically, at the moment, I would say that's what it seems like anyway, that we're kind of using it as this kind of support system for things that we're doing directly within this technology. Just setting up all of my screens, if you can kind of see me looking around everywhere. Ask questions. Yeah, absolutely. So this is ChatGPT. So has everyone opened up ChatGPT at the back of this? Yeah, so we can kind of go along with me. So ChatGPT is classed as an AI-powered conversational assistant, which may be like an interesting phrase. It may be something that you don't actually understand, that this is dedicated to be our conversational assistant. And it's created by OpenAI, of course. So at its core, what drives this is a large language model. It's a system that is trained on vast amounts of text from the internet. So this is books, this is data sets, it's music, it's imagery, everything that it can kind of use to understand and generate human-like language. So it's a super smart language engine. That is the technology that is powering ChatGPT. And it can read, it can write, it can reason, and it can summarize across a range of topics. It can also do things from strategy planning all the way to creative ideation. But it's not just a chatbot. And that's what people are kind of stuck within. It can actually, it's a big tool. It has all of these kind of capabilities that we've kind of covered. And a lot of you are using it in very different ways to each other. So when we kind of access ChatGPT, we go to chat.openai.com, yeah, and this is the main interface. This is the interface that you will be the most used to, yeah. In the paid versions, I am on Plus. So in the paid versions, I also get access to a choice of models, yeah. If you are currently on the free version, you will only get access to the latest model, and that is GPT-5. And what you will get is auto. So it will automatically decide how it wants to answer. If you are on a paid version, we can use that and change that depending on the task at hand. Some of you may or may not know that you also access ChatGPT through tools. So through Copilot. So you actually, when you're using Copilot, it is actually linked to ChatGPT. So then we see things in Word, Excel, Teams, and Outlook. And you also may see it in Canva, Notion, HubSpot, because it is all integrated into ChatGPT's technology directly. So this what we have access to here, this technology is in other places. It's not just us logging into ChatGPT. So it's increasingly becoming this layer, yeah, behind your everyday tools. It's not just a separate app anymore. So in realistic terms, you're using this in so many different places. So why is this important? Why am I harping on about this technology and where you can kind of access it and where you can find it? And the reason is this is now driving, fueling, creating kind of this new way of working. Yeah, it's not just a piece of software anymore. And it matters because it gives us access to speed and scale. It can turn hours of writing, brainstorming, or analysis into minutes. It also gives us creativity on demand. It can offer ideas from angles that we may not have even considered. We don't need to be technical anymore. So for example, I can ask it, can you create me the code for an interactive portfolio pricing block on a WordPress website? Oh, I apologize for my bad spelling when I kind of get going. And what it'll do is it's actually going to ask me the questions that it needs, and then it is going to build that for me. So I don't need to be technical anymore, right? It gives us a competitive advantage. So teams and individuals who understand how to ask better questions and how to utilize this technology will move faster and smarter than those who don't. And also this world of integration. So ChatGPT is evolving into a digital workspace where all of these things happen: content creation, automation, and reasoning in one place. There's not much technology that gives you so much scope for how to kind of access. Yeah. So as you can see, it then starts to build that out. Of course, I can answer these questions and get better coding, but I would not be able to write that code as quick as that. And then I can literally copy it and then use it where I want to. Of course, there's going to be bugs, but for a starting point, it's incredibly powerful. So I'm just going to open up a new chat so we don't get distracted in there. So ChatGPT-5, the model that it will automatically kind of hit you up on, where we start at, is its new flagship model. Yeah, it's now the default. So as I say, if you are on free, this is the default model you will have access to. It combines everything learned from earlier versions, so GPT-4, 4 Turbo, etc., into a single, faster and smarter system. The idea is that the model gets better as it evolves, but I'm not saying that actually using an older model for a specific task isn't better, but I'll go into that. So ChatGPT-5, this kind of model here that encompasses auto, instant, and thinking, this is designed to reason more deeply. So we can actually force it, if we are on a paid for version, to think more detailed, and I can select thinking. What this does is it gives it a deeper tokenization, it gives it time, and it gives it more kind of understanding on the fact that you want a more detailed answer. We can also get things to respond much more quickly. If I'm asking it to do percentages of something or a very easy question that actually isn't going to take much thought, I can get it to do instant. Auto, which is what the free version will have access and will have default set to, this is where it decides itself on which model it's going to kind of pull forward. So the model itself, when it is in auto, switches between these two internal modes depending on our task. So we'll see a kind of reasoning of that, and we can also kind of choose ourselves. So if we're asking it to create a full pitch deck, for example, we would of course expect it to think longer than if it's going to give me an answer right away, because then we're going to get a better, more detailed answer here. There is also, if you're in Pro, so if you pay for ChatGPT Pro, you also get Thinking Pro. So that is maximum accuracy, and it's trying to reduce the kind of potential for hallucinations or incorrect. But I only use Plus. I don't need the really big kind of subscription. So what I want to talk to you now is the fact that there's a lot of security and safety that you can kind of start with before you even start putting anything into ChatGPT. When we first got access to this technology, we were so excited about it. Yeah, and we didn't really start to think about where the data goes, how the data is handled that we input into these systems, right? Has anybody, you can give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, has anybody gone in and updated and changed their security data controls in ChatGPT at any point? Yeah. Yeah, Simon has. So alongside that, we can also do things like give it custom instructions. So let's start with kind of understanding what happens when we kind of manage our chat history. So what happens when you actually kind of hit send on this kind of box here? So if you go into your settings at the bottom here, What you can actually do is you can choose if you want to improve the model for everybody, or use the kind of the information that you put in to support the kind of growth of the model. In this side here, if you go down to data controls, you can then choose at the top here if you want to improve the model for everyone. If you don't turn this off, that means that your data that you put into this system can be used to train the model. So what you will have seen in the news is, if you look at, remember the Ericsson developer, very junior guy, he put in a load of code for Ericsson and asked the model to fix it. But then a competitor could actually see that code because they asked to see if any information had been put in by their competitors. Yeah. So you can turn it off here. A lot of people don't realize that realistically, our information that we put in and we ask about is our intellectual property, or it is the intellectual property of the company that we work for or the clients that we work for, right? So we need to be very mindful and making sure that we do turn that off if it is not data that we have control over. It's not data that we can make decisions on. Yeah. You can also manage all of your archive chats here and delete all your chats if you wanted to, and also export your data as necessary. So this gives you control. This is allowing you to control. If you are on a free version of ChatGPT, though, a lot of your data is automatically used to train the model. You don't have that choice. Having a subscription gives you more choices in the kind of use of this technology. The next thing I want to kind of go through with you is custom instructions. So has anybody given ChatGPT custom instructions? You can let me know, yes or a no. Yeah. So what this allows us to do is we can tell ChatGPT how we want it to work with us. Tori, that's amazing. I just put, remember not to use the M dash. Yeah, so it's things like that. So the way that you do that is you go to your settings and you go into personalization, and then you add in the information here. So you can give it a nickname. So you can ask it to call you by your name or something else. You can give it your occupation. You can tell it about yourself. You can also give it custom instructions. So do I want it to talk to me very straight shooting, very chatty, very witty? And also if you don't like how ChatGPT responds to you, you can also give it a personality. Yeah. Do you want it to be cynical, robotic? Do you want it to be more of a listener, a nerd? Yeah. So that is one of the places that you can kind of, again, enhance how you understand and access this. So what would we like ChatGPT to know about us? Yeah, what do we feel that is important information to actually give it more personalization when it comes to the outputs? If you're using it specifically for one business, like your own brand, you can give it the tone of voice, like Tori said, or you can tell it what the purpose is of all of the content that you want it to create for you. Avoid adding very personal things, again, because you're putting your data into a data pool. And don't tell it things like our Q4 client pitch budget is 70,000 euros and we're based in the UK. It doesn't really help, but you can tell it that you're a marketing director at a mid-sized tech company. Yeah, and then it will help you to give you more useful content out the other end of this kind of process. You can also adjust your data controls in here. So when we're actually looking at how you want it to be connected, so do you want it to use remote browser data? Do you want it to be connected to various things? This is where you would do all of that. The connectors are incredibly important when it comes to using the agentic side of ChatGPT, which I will go through. And the more you have it connected to, the better the agent can run a project. But again, when you are not using ChatGPT, turn these connections off. make sure that the system doesn't have access to things that is incredibly kind of security kind of wise, because if you're logged into your banking app on your browser and then you set an agent off, that agent could go and check out that because it is live on your browser. So just make sure you are being very mindful in the connections of these kind of systems. When you upload a file, it's stored temporarily for you, and if you have to ask it to not train the model, then it won't go into the train model. Files are not shared with others and can be deleted after a short time once the chat ends, realistically. And ChatGPT can read, summarize, and analyze files, but it doesn't permanently retain that information. So that's something to note. So when you are kind of asking it to reference something you've uploaded within a folder, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, it may not be able to recall that information. And I'll also go through why that is as well. I'm just going to sneeze. Bless me. So don't, again, upload anything confidential, personal, identifiable, unless you're in the business or enterprise workspace, which has much stronger kind of terminology and security. So ChatGPT is only as safe as the way that you use it. So we need to take these moments to treat it like any other professional workspace where we stay in control of both creativity and confidentiality. And when it comes to like understanding the depth of kind of how to use ChatGPT, what do you think is actually the biggest thing that holds you back? What do you think is the kind of biggest barrier to actually accessing all that ChatGPT has to offer? You can let me know in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you and explain to you how ChatGPT takes our prompt and then gives us an answer. Yeah. So we're going to go from our words to how it understands those words to the outcome, to the generated answer, because that's what we want, right? We want to be getting better and better at our kind of our outputs, because realistically, we want this tool to become better with us as we learn to do things more. So I'm just going to show you this screen here. How these systems work is that these systems don't actually read. They don't read text the way that we do. It actually breaks it down into tiny chunks called tokens. So a token is usually a few characters or part of a word. So it's like, hello, can you please write me a link in post about leadership? That's a very bad prompt. Don't ever use that and then post a comment. It's just so you can see. Every language model understands and predicts text at this tokenization level. So that is how it reads. The process converts our sentences, as you can see there, into numbers, the sequence of tokens that the model can then interpret mathematically. So if I show you a token ID, you can see there, that's what it actually reads it as. Yeah. So that broken down text is actually read in this way by the model. Once the words are then tokenized, ChatGPT then looks at them in context. This is what gives it memory within a conversation. So the context window, this is really important to understand the depth that ChatGPT can go into. The context window is the short-term memory. This is the maximum number of tokens it can consider at once. So ChatGPT 5, for example, can handle up to 128,000 tokens. It's important to note that that is also in a folder, not just a chat. So if you are in a folder that you have been accessing for many, many months, updating, asking questions, the older information, so if we have created maybe 200 pages of text, the older information starts to drop off. Yeah. So everything inside that window, that 128,000 tokens, which you can see here, tokens can be more than the words. And sometimes it also breaks up words into 2 tokens. This influences how ChatGPT interprets our next request. So when that window fills up, when it has filled up that 128,000 tokens, older parts of that conversation start to fall off. Yeah, unless they're summarized or they are reintroduced, you bring them back in. So the context window is what helps ChatGPT actually stay on topic, but it's also why it can sometimes forget earlier details in longer conversations. Yeah. So after processing this prompt into tokens and understanding the kind of how to read it and then the context of that, what it actually does is it predicts the next most likely token based on everything it has seen before. It's a probability machine. It's a statistic matrix, yeah? Each prediction influences the next, so it can form a flowing sentence, yeah? So what you can actually also do in your kind of settings is change the temperature settings, yeah? Which you can adjust via the API. And this actually controls creativity. So if you have a low temperature, I know it sounds balmy within the terminology, but a low temperature within ChatGPT, that makes it more focused and factual. If you have a higher temperature, this gives it more varied and creative responses. So depending on how you're using ChatGPT, it's good to change that, make it more relevant to you so you get better answers every single time. One thing to note is that, you know, when it responds, so create a LinkedIn post about leadership. As it's building out its answer, it doesn't know the full sentence. It's doing this token by token, by understanding what it needs to do, the things that we have asked it, the context I have asked it in, and then predicting the next most probable word. Yeah. So that is why when we're seeing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn that is the same kind of output and it's got all the rocket emojis and the M dashes, it's because we're not giving it enough. We're not giving it enough to go by. So then when we ask it a basic prompt that loads of other people are asking, it's going into its database, learning what you want it to do, comparing it to its information it has access to, and then is giving you the most probable answer. And that is why we've got a lot of what is called AI slop about it at the moment. And that is because people are asking it the same things. Can you make me a LinkedIn post about AI in marketing? Yeah. And so many other people are. So the probability is that we're all going to sound the same because we're all getting the most probable outcome. Yeah. So that's something that some people don't recognize, is that ChatGPT just is a statistical probability machine. It's deciding what the next most probable word is, which is why we get this kind of disconnect between, like, there's a misunderstanding of actually how this works. So that is why we don't get the best out of it. So we type a message, ChatGPT breaks it down into tokens that look like this. It reads those numbers in a context window along with your previous messages, and then it predicts the next token to give us our output. So hopefully understanding this process a little bit more helps you write clearer, structured prompts, so tokens are easier for the model to interpret. You can understand how to manage your long chats, so keep key info near the end. So keep bringing it back in so the model can see it and it doesn't get forgotten. And appreciate why ChatGPT can sound human but still make factual mistakes, because, well, it predicts words. It doesn't know truth. Yeah. So that kind of brings me on to the next thing I want to talk to you about, because this is a big thing that I see time and time again. And that is the fact that people don't understand how ChatGPT actually thinks. And that is a key thing. It doesn't think. Yeah, we humanize things. Yeah, we put this kind of human personality onto things that actually isn't there. So when we're asking kind of ChatGPT things, it's not reasoning in the way that we understand. So I'm going to ask you a question. So when ChatGPT gives you an answer that sounds smart, but is actually wrong, what do you think has actually happened there? Do you think it was reasoning? Do you think it was guessing? Or do you think it was something else? It was doing something else to get that incorrect answer. It invented it. So how did it invent it? How did it get to that? How did it think it was correct? Because one thing you should know is it won't put something it doesn't think is correct. Yeah. So it's filling a gap. It hallucinated. Yeah. So reasoning doesn't always mean understanding. Yeah. So this is the whole thing, that it's predicting, and if it doesn't have enough to confidently predict, it will fill the gap. It will predict, because its purpose, its whole reason it exists is to answer, is to respond. Yeah. So it's going to respond. It just may not be able to predict in the best way. So I've got another quick question for you. So if ChatGPT doesn't truly understand language in the way that we understand language, why do its answers often feel like it does? And what does this kind of say about how we interpret intelligence? So if it doesn't truly understand language, why do its answers often feel like it does? Can anyone answer me that, or give me an idea of kind of that information? Trained on human data, yeah? So it's only able to understand the world in the way that we give information. It's optimized for it. Yeah, it's a language model. But what I want to kind of pause here and do is, we're just going to reflect a little. Yeah. Why are we attributing human kind of processes onto a piece of technology? Why do we attribute understanding just because it's coherent? Yeah. Simon says it speaks with confidence. Yeah. That's also a thing about it, right? Why we don't know how to challenge it. We don't know if we should challenge. Fluency is also a thing. Yeah. So when OpenAI and others say that ChatGPT or ChatGPT-5 can reason, they don't mean it thinks. That's something that we need to drop. We need to drop that correlation. What it actually means is it performs advanced pattern-based reasoning within text. Yeah, that's what it is actually able to do. So what that looks like in practice is it analyzes structure and logic and relationships within the prompt. It breaks it down into smaller parts, checks the consistency, and follows instructions step by step. So it can simulate reasoning. So for example, working through a math problem, debugging code, or comparing two arguments, because it has learned how reasoning looks in language. Yeah. But the model is using probabilistic inference. It predicts the most likely next step in a logical sequence based on examples it has seen, which is why it cannot create. It cannot bring something new to life. What it can do is it can mash a load of the data it has access to and then regurgitate that in a new template to you, but it cannot give you something truly new. So it's reasoning, it's the way it sees the world, the way it gives you an answer, the way it creates its output is statistical logic reconstruction. It takes your question, breaks it down into an understanding, has a look at what it has access to or been trained on, or the information you've given it, and then gives you the most probable best answer. Yeah. I apologize. I'm gonna sneeze again. It doesn't mean it has human style thinking or awareness. It doesn't know what it's talking about. It predicts text based on probability. Another thing that you need to understand, it does not have a true understanding of concepts. It connects words, not meanings in the human sense. It doesn't have common sense or lived experiences, so it can reason through text, but lacks grounding in real world. And it doesn't plan or decide. It reacts to our prompt structure and the kind of patterns we've given it. So while it can look like reasoning, even impressively so, it's really a very sophisticated pattern matching engine guided by statistical inference. Yeah. But models like ChatGPT include what OpenAI calls thinking mode. Now, this is here, yeah, where we ask it to think. So what this does is it actually lets the system pause. So instead of it just going bing, 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 and then coming out with this most probable kind of answer, it gives it a moment to breathe, yeah, and take extra steps before answering, but it's still not human thought. It's a longer chain of internal calculations called multi-step reasoning, which enhance the probability. Yeah. So realistically, what we're aiming for here is fewer logic mistakes, better analysis, and more consistent answers in complex tasks. Yeah. It's not able to think, even though we're using these words that have such an emphasis on the way that we do things. We need to drop that and realize what it means within these kind of systems. So it's just giving the model a few extra seconds to kind of take a breath, yeah? And why does this matter, us knowing these kind of different things within these systems? And it's because we need to trust the process, not the illusion. So ChatGPT sounds confidence, but confidence doesn't always equal truth in this instance. We need to be better at prompting. So we have to prompt for structure. So if we ask it how to show our reasoning steps, we actually help it to perform logic better. And we are the decision maker. We need to always position ourselves as the decision maker. So ChatGPT can assist reasoning, but it does not replace human judgment. Yeah, it never can, not at the moment. I'm not going to say never, because in like 10, 15 years, when somebody watches this recording back, they'll be like, Robin said never. But we need to understand at this point in time what these terms mean within the technology that we have access to. So I want to talk about hallucinations, and what that actually means. So many moons ago, if we go into a legacy kind of model, it'll get it right this time, but we used to be able to ask things like, what is 2 plus 2? And it would actually get it wrong. Yeah, it would actually come out with 5 or 7. And a hallucination isn't a bug in the sense of a kind of crash of a system. What it is when ChatGPT is filling in or producing information that isn't true or doesn't exist. So what you'll see at the moment is people all of a sudden realizing that ChatGPT invents fake statistics or references. It misstates facts. It mixes up timelines. It can sound so totally certain about something that's completely made up. So you'll see in a lot of AI generated white papers, you'll see things like the Marketing Trends Report 2023 by Deloitte, for example, said that 87% of marketers now use AI tools daily. But if you actually go and have a look, that report doesn't exist. It's because it sounds good. There's probably, ChatGPT has decided that probably someone has done a report on this, and Deloitte often do reports on trends. So it's obviously going to be them, right? That's what happens. And it's because ChatGPT predicts words, not truth. So ChatGPT doesn't know facts. It predicts the most likely, not whether it's true. Yeah, so it's like a supercharged autocomplete in some instances. The data we have fed it has gaps and biases, and ChatGPT has a knowledge cutoff. So it is not connected to live information like Perplexity is, for example. And if data is missing, it will just fill in the blanks. It will guess what sounds right. Unless it is connected to a tool that has real-time access, it can't do current or niche information. So it invents details to sound helpful because that is its core purpose. It also has an overconfidence in language. So it's designed to sound fluent and confident, and that's what makes it usable. And so kind of connective in the way that we kind of work with these systems. But it's optimized for that. And confidence isn't accuracy. Yeah. It prefers to answer than to say, I don't know. So one of the things that you need to do is be specific, ask for sources and references, use connected tools, and cross-check with trusted sources. So do you have any experiences where ChatGPT has given you an answer that sounded right, but wasn't? Have you read something where you've gone, oh, that's an interesting statistic, I'll have a look, and then it's not existed when you've tried to find that in the world? Fake references, yeah. So if I ask, tell me today's news. So it says it's searching the web, it's not. Yeah. So here are some of the key global kind of stories today. So this is what it's kind of bringing you forward. So ChatGPT is now connected to the internet if I allow it to. So this is able to bring it forward. But if you ask for something like, what are the top 3 trends of the end of 2025 for marketing, it just can't bring it through. So Megan's even said, I will give it facts, then it feeds them back wrong sometimes, probably because it doesn't quite understand the context or where that information is coming from. So yeah, finance related prompts around current legislation are not the latest. If you search things like GDPR and things like that, updates and that, they're just not right. So you need to make sure that you either use a different AI tool, like something like Perplexity, or you understand where the knowledge cutoff is, for example. So I'm going to tell you now that ChatGPT does not lie, even though I see a lot of people going, it's forcibly telling me the wrong things. No, it's not. It's just because it's guessing. Yeah, it's like a toddler. It's guessing that information. And its goal is fluency, not truth. We need to remember this. So understanding that difference is how we turn it from a risky tool into kind of a reliable assistant. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you the structure of a great prompt. Let's go into auto. So what we're going to do is talk about prompts. So a prompt is not a question. And that's how a lot of people are using it. So it's like, what is this? Or how is this? And that is not actually how we should be structuring our input into these systems. So it's an instruction, a role, and a context. That is what we should be aiming for. So it can't read our minds. It can't fill in the gaps, because if it starts doing that, it starts putting everything in willy-nilly, right? So we need to give it an instruction, a role, and a context. So the way that we actually build a great prompt is we start with the context. So this is C. So it's called the create formula. So we're starting with a C. So we give it background. Who are we? What we're doing and why, so we can get it to frame the task correctly. We then need to give it a role. Does anybody give ChatGPT a role? Because I want to tell it who it is. I want to give it its role within this kind of situation. Is it a marketer? Is it an analyst? Is it a coach? Because what that does is it shapes tone and expertise. We then want to give it the end goal. I want you to be truly explicit about what you need, a summary, a plan, a draft, because I want you to prevent vague answers. And then we also have an audience. So who is it for? Yeah. And we want to adjust the tone and complexity. We then want to kind of make sure that we are giving it a format. So define the style and structure, so we can give it consistency, and it saves me having to then edit it loads when it comes out the other end. This is the one people always forget. Give it an example. Yeah. Literally show it what you want, or an example of something that you like or don't like. If you get a weak answer the first time, what I want you to do is not restart, just refine, just keep going in that conversation. You can add a follow-up like, rewrite that in a more confident tone and make it half as long. As every time you restart, you click new chat, it's like it's got amnesia. It starts from blank slate. Yeah. So just keep refining. So this is a very weak prompt. If we use this one here, very, very weak prompt. Yeah. Even though it seems like half of the people on LinkedIn are just using this. So you'll see things like, is the bridge, so that's tone and format, I mean. But I will get these notes all sent out to you as well, because I wanted to just stay within ChatGPT together today. So yeah, it's a very, very not great. I wouldn't respond to something that was like, but here's the real shift. We're entering a phase. Yeah, it's just not great. And but what we can do is improve that prompt with the kind of context, role, end goal, audience, tone, and example, and choose something like this instead. Yeah, so I haven't put an example in here, but you'll see everything else apart from that. So already much more human in the way that it has created that. It is also creating it in a specific length. It's optimized for LinkedIn, who it's for, the tonation, and kind of what I want the call to action to be. But again, this is also not the best. You can still enhance and edit and add to this prompt moving forward. I think it was something like a good prompt is about 300 to 400 words at the moment. So the more you give it, the better it is. But remember, we have 128,000 cap off. So within this conversation, if you're looking that you've written quite a lot and you've gone back and forth quite a lot, and you're getting to that 100 pages of kind of text, it is going to start to forget that older information. Yeah. So the better you create these prompts within that create formula, we don't get garbage out, because garbage in, you get garbage out. Yeah, the prompt defines the product in most instances. We always need to include the context, the role, and the goal. And we also need to iterate, because even that isn't great. So it's even giving me, do I actually want it to be to a specific audience? Yeah, of course. So let's do CMOs. Yeah. See, I almost wrote please there, but I'll tell you why we don't need to do that. Yeah, so it's changing it. It's looking back at what CMOs talk about, what they connect with, and the learning data it has access to, and then it's pulling it through. Sadly, it has brought a rocket emoji through though. So that is prompting. So this is where we're talking directly to the model and asking it to give us the most beautiful, probable answer as our output. So has anybody started to use the agentic side of ChatGPT yet? Just let me know, yes or no. So this is where it can create a whole system. So to access it, we just do a / here. We click agent mode. You are limited to the amount of kind of agentic systems you can have going at once. So what this allows me to do is give ChatGPT live access to various things. Yeah. So I can connect it to the web. I can give it access to my own GitHub, my own Gmail, my own Google Calendar, my Google Drive, and you can also connect much more. So what you can then do is I can ask it to find the top 3 eco-friendly companies and create find their CMOs, LinkedIn, and draft a connection message and put the output in a Google Sheet. So as you can see, it's almost like I'm giving it a project. Yeah. So when you're talking to the agenic side, what you need to do is make sure that you give it a goal. Yeah, it's not just a question. We don't waste credits here on just a question. What we're doing is we're getting it to complete a task that we don't want to complete. AI lives for the grunt work. It is great at the grunt work. So it's great when we're asking it to do this kind of research. This allows ChatGPT to connect and use actively other tools. Yeah, so it'll use it itself without our input. It allows it to also perform multi-step reasoning, yeah, and automate repetitive workflows. So essentially, when we're using the agenic side, it doesn't just answer, it actually acts. Yeah, it actually goes and does that thing for you. So I'm going to start running this. Yeah. Now be mindful that everything it is connected to, it has access to, and it can make changes on. Make sure you're using a browser that you know where you're logged into. Make sure you're not logged into clients kind of stuff when you're using the agenic kind of side, unless you have a profile specifically for them and you're running the agent on their kind of stuff. And make sure that you do turn off things when you are not actively using any agents. As you can see, nothing of mine is connected because I use this as my kind of demo space. So we're going to let that run. What this does is it allows you to watch what it is doing. And this gives you some guardrails because you can stop it at any time. And it also shows you its process. So we give the agent a high level task or goal. So we're asking it in this instance to find the 3 eco-friendly companies and find their CMOs, LinkedIn, and draft a connection message and put the output in a Google Sheet. The agent then breaks it down and it plans its steps. So is it going to research? Does it need to data collect? Does it need to do analysis? Does it need to report generation? That kind of thing. And then it executes the steps autonomously. It does it itself without me even kind of telling it what to do. So it's not back and forth anymore. It is completing that project without me. And then we can kind of review and refine. So once it has kind of completed that, we can then tell it to follow up. We can give it more information. And at any instance, what you can do is also press these kind of buttons here. We can have a look at the activity. We can take over. So if it is kind of looking at things that you don't want it to look at, and then we can also stop. We can get it to stop directly because it can go in places that we don't expect, or it can look at things that we don't really want it to look at, right? So this is kind of available for pro and business users. And it's a great way to kind of start to understand the agenic side of AI systems, especially within this kind of tech, because it is incredibly transparent. You can see everything it is doing. I can also go in that section there and I can look at the different steps it is kind of doing. So let's go back into desktop view. So this is what it is doing on my computer. Yeah, it's doing this through the access I have given it. Okay. And then this mode matters because we're moving more and more towards AI that is more multi-logic rather than just kind of answer and response, which we're kind of very used to. And that's what we do within the general use of these systems. So I am going to have to stop it because I want to show you how to build your own custom ChatGPT very quickly. But what it would end doing is it would just give me a Google Sheet and I would have access to the 3 things that I've asked and the message it had then created for me to send. So I'm just going to stop it there. So you can really kind of use it to enhance your kind of work, to get that grunt work kind of done. The other way that you can access GPTs or specific use GPTs is by going on the left-hand side and clicking Explore. Now, what these are GPTs with custom processes. So when you connect to Canva, you will have more opportunity than when you're just using ChatGPT, for example. If you're looking to do something specific, you should always choose a specific GPT. ChatGPT is more for like your research and your analysis. If you have a specific reason to do something, specificity always beats a jack of all trades. Yeah. So when we're in this kind of space here, I want to show you now how you can create your own GPT. So I want you to go to My GBTs on this side here, create a GBT. Now, because it's connected to ChatGPT, we just need to ask it what we want it to build. So create a research system that collects 10 LinkedIn profiles for CMOs daily. Yeah. So it'll tell me if I need to ask any more questions of it here now. Just having a quick think. Okay, so it's telling me that it understands. It's planning the research system flow now. Yeah. So what it's doing is now building that only from that small input. Yeah. So if you are a marketing company, you could get this to pull up information about your competitors all the time. You can pop in LinkedIn profiles and get it to analyze what that person's pain point is. If you are hiring somebody, you could get this to check out their online world. If you are a leadership, you could put all your notes in here and get it to give the kind of the outputs really easily, who needs to do what, that kind of thing. So it's just generating it now. Yeah. Seems to be taking a little longer than normal. Amazon Web Services was down today, so everything's having a little bit of a problem at the moment. Okay, well, I'll show you one that I created before, just so you can have a look at what it kind of looked like. So this is one that I built as an example to show you. So this is a LinkedIn and insight analyst. So I can pop in the kind of information from a LinkedIn profile, and I can get it to analyze, I can get it to compare and tell me what this person's personality is. So it's really powerful to have these mini specific things. If you are a photographer, or your client is a photographer, they got loads of different prices for various things. You can then put in the kind of needs of the client, and then it'll bring up a price, for example. If you are a very bespoke agency and your prices aren't set, you can put in all the different relevant information here, and then you can kind of create very specific, wonderful kind of amount, like estimates very quickly. You can also go into here, and then you can configure and update all of the different settings for your ChatGPT. So these kind of GBTs that we kind of have access to here, like I connect to Canva or SciSpace, or creating your own, for example, these are they're customized, they are mini experts, they are dedicated to one thing, which makes them incredibly powerful. The more specific we are, the better these systems work. Yeah. So we've just come to the end of our hour now, and I hope this session kind of shows you how to truly get more out of ChatGPT, to understand your kind of security, to empower you to go and make your own ChatGPT to do specific tasks within your system, because you saw how easy it was. So we go explore, create, tell it what we want, and then refine within that process. And also to understand your security. So another thing you can also do is you can turn on temporary chat. And what this does is this won't appear in our history. It won't update ChatGPT's memory or be used to train our models. So this is another way to also keep conversations incredibly secure. So does anyone have any questions for the end of this kind of mini workshop, or kind of something they taken away from today, or something that they thought was interesting, or something they're going to try? Yeah. There you go, Kate, you can talk now. Oh, she just put her hand up, but I don't know if she wants to say anything. Yeah, go away, try making your own GPT as you use it for both work and personal. That's quite interesting. Has anyone else got any questions for me today as well? Really enlightening on how to use GPT properly. Yeah, enhance what you do. Oh, the temperature thing. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? The different things that we can kind of do to, I don't know, just actually use this kind of piece of technology. Because realistically, we get stuck in our ways. Whereas this technology has actually moved on much more than just asking questions back and forth, realistically. Has anyone else got any other questions? So yeah, so this happens every 2 weeks, and we actually have some extra ones coming up because we're doing a session on how to understand how AI is used in recruitment. So when you're writing your CV or you're preparing for a session with an AI avatar, what you need to do and how to understand this. Megan said, after this, my mindset has completely shifted and moving away from thinking it's always correct. Yeah. And not to think of it as human. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The temperature feature is within API settings. That is where it is. So I think Megan's going to put some little like links in about the college. But if you are interested in kind of learning more about these kind of systems, there is a short course, a lunchtime course that we're running about ChatGPT specifically, and that's over 3 different lunchtime sessions. We also have the Specialist Award in AI Marketing, which kind of really deep dives into this kind of world of AI. And we also have a Slack channel, which is totally free for you to join, where we just kind of talk and I post loads of information about what's coming up when it comes to AI kind of regulation and compliance as well. But yeah, so this session will actually go onto YouTube if you want to catch it back. And there's also all of the other kind of done sessions on YouTube as well. And we also give the notes and the slides out as well. Obviously, there's no slides today, but there are notes for you to kind of be supported in the kind of use of what you found today. And if you have any questions, just kind of let me know in between the sessions and I can get any of your kind of questions answered. But just as we're wrapping up, does anyone have anything else that they want to ask or kind of let me know about today? No? Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always. And if you do get stuck on absolutely anything to do with it, just you can find me on LinkedIn or you can email the college and then I can get those answered for you as we kind of wait for the next session. And I hope to see you on the next one. There's one about perplexity coming up, and that's a very different system because it is consistently connected to the web. So it's very different in the way that this works. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.